You know, it'd be funny if hobbits actually had like huge dicks, like really huge, thick dick. Like they're small people, but
the size of a normal person's dick.
like just an enormous dick is
when Vivid releases the Hobbit Desolation of Smaug, then you will get to see your wish come true.
That would be fucking cool.
The Nobbit.
Hello, I'm Ryan Wright.
And I'm Jerry.
And I'm Rachel.
Welcome to Reasons to Say,
where we give you reasons to see.
And not to see.
The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. So let's hang out. Reason to see number 1. Directing and cinematography. Alright people, so we saw The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, whatever the hell.
Smaug.
Smoogie. What I liked about it a lot, I thought the directing and cinematography really improved off the first one. Definitely had a much darker tone. The moments were hit better. I thought that the emotional impact was actually there. I felt like in the first Hobbit, Peter Jackson was getting his feet wet again. And in this one, I felt like it was more solidified and more thought out because it like jumps around a bunch of different characters. And so many times I'd be like, oh yeah, that guy's in this movie. But I found each story to be very interesting. I was always very much engrossed.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, I was sort of intermittent on this movie. There were times when I was like, oh, this is way cool, and I'm really digging this more, you know, than the first one. And then there are times where I was like, oh, you're losing me again.
Well, you're a bitch for feeling that way.
I am a bitch.
I'd probably have an opinion on this topic if I cared, like at all, about the camera.
There's some cool tone, you know. There's some cool creepy visuals.
I need more than just, you know, it being a dark thing and like, ooh, look at how smooth this is and look at how dark this scene is, you know.
Oh, I thought it was like really intense and stuff at a lot of the time, so that's why I was more captivated by it.
I mean, that in and of itself, you know, didn't captivate me. It didn't captivate me.
Well, you're an asshole.
Reason to see number 2.
Smaug!
He was one of my favorite things about this movie.
Yeah.
Like, he comes in so late into the film. He's like in the whole finale. Awesome to watch. Like he's monologuing the whole time. It's like that rare thing where a dragon's talking and you're like, I'm really into everything this dragon's saying right now.
Hey Matt, he doesn't even have to be on screen. When Benedict Cumberbatch is talking, you're like, I'm listening to you, man.
Yeah, and the effects on him were great. It didn't pull me out of the film going, oh, that looks fake. Like, I was pulled into it enough to be like, this is kind of a scary fucking dragon right now.
I mean, initially, I wasn't really crazy about the lines he was saying. You know, there was a lot of like, where are you? You know, come on, you know, it just seemed like, you know, the writing for what he was saying wasn't particularly,
He's a dragon.
Exactly, you know.
He hasn't talked to anybody in a long time.
Okay,
yeah.
He sleeps in a pile of gold. I think his people skills are probably not.
He's the richest dragon you'll ever meet.
What does he spend the money on? Why does he need the gold? Was this explained?
Cause
Dragon hose, man.
Reason to see number 3.
Visual effects. For me, carrying over from the first one to this one, I'm a little more used to what's going on visually, but I feel like everything that was good and everything that wasn't so good is pretty steady for me.
Really, I felt like pulled back into Middle-earth, not just the visual effects, but also with the directing as well. I wasn't there watching it the whole time going, yay, Lord of the Rings, yay, Lord of the Rings. Like, I felt like it was its own separate entity.
I mean, there are definitely some really standout moments. Like I said, I mean, it's only distracting to me when it's like the Goblin Army guys and it's all CG and you're like, oh, it looks really CG now.
You guys just have nothing good to say about
I thought the spider scene was rad.
The spider scene was bomb, dude.
And
that's when I got hooked. Reason to see number 4. Legolas. I thought he was like fucking badass in this one. And they did expand upon his character more. He felt more important in this one. And kind of in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, he's just that cool guy with a bow and arrow. They gave him much more badass things to do. They didn't like expand vastly on his character, but they expanded enough to make him more interesting to me.
Sure, he did look like a badass with his arrows.
As like in 3D just now is good.
Wait, this is not how you fire. I wasn't terribly invested in Legolas's endeavors. I felt.
Oh man, I just thought he was so cool. So much of it, I would be like, oh, sick.
Reason to see number 5. Toriel.
Evangeline Lilly.
Lost.
She's beautiful, and it's cool seeing a female character that can kick some fucking ass. It's cool seeing those two together, like working together and just doing archery to people who are like a foot away from them.
If honestly, like, I really like the two of them in anything. I feel like it almost could have been more not action scenes with those two characters involved in them. Having them around was like, I want to know more about why you're here and what's going on with you elves, because this has clearly become more than a Hobbit's journey and the journey of the dwarves. It's become a Middle-earth issue.
Reason to see number 6! Bilbo!
That was my boy!
I like to enjoy watching him more than Frodo, for sure. I think he has a much more personality to him. There's a certain kind of whimsicalness about him. There's a charm. There's more of a charm, and he's humorous, you know? I guess he's like a quarter of this movie, but he's not in it. They call it The Hobbit, but The Hobbit is like not so much in it.
I've been calling it The Thorin. Peter Jackson needs to make a decision about whether or not this movie is about Bilbo through Bilbo's perspective and going in and seeing Middle-earth, and, you know, maybe the audience, you know, kind of sees everything through Bilbo's eyes, because Bilbo's basically, you know, not particularly magical. He's someone the audience can relate to, and he's the
everyman.
Exactly, and he gets thrown into all these ridiculous situations. And I found that the
Think on his feet!
Yeah.
His big-ass hairy feet!
Big-ass hairy feet!
Reason to see number 7. The production design. With the makeup, I thought was really good. I even liked it on the orcs. There was this one new orc they introduced that has like a slice down his head like that.
Yeah.
There's this one moment where Gandalf goes to some, I don't know, city where he's by himself. He's going solo, and I thought that was really neat. The whole spider sequence.
That's the bread and butter of these movies to me. Partly is the production design, and I that's the stuff I kind of uniformly loved about this. You know, even if some of the vis effects weren't spot on, I still love the really weird, cool goblin designs. You know, I thought the orc looks were just as good as they've always been. I really like the Elven Kingdom and the Dwarf Mines, and
I liked the beehive they lived in.
Yeah, like all these different, you know, places you get to see is part of the magic of these movies, and that hasn't shaken for me once over the course of any of them.
I do feel though, like if they made this movie, same screenplay, you know, same script, same everything, but without such great special effects, would it still be a good movie?
I don't think you could make this movie on a small budget, no.
Well,
but you need it to be big. It's like one of those movies that justifies having it be big.
My point is I find myself not liking some aspects of the movie, but then falling back and being like, but, you know, the effects were great.
That's why we have categories, Rachel.
Exactly.
Well, and that's why no movie is defined by one thing or the other.
I guess I felt like if the production design wasn't so great, then I would have just absolutely not liked the movie.
Split decision number 1. Thorin.
Thorin's a cocksucker.
That is a bold statement to make.
I was trying to get a reaction out of you, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I don't think he sucks any cock in this movie.
Yeah, there's not one sequence in which fellatio is performed on anyone.
Yeah. I think Thorin is fucking cool, dude. I like that angry kind of guy who's, you know, has internal complexity and all that shit. He's a leader that you're like sometimes on board with, sometimes not on board with. You're like conflicted about the opinion you have of this guy a lot of the time. And I kind of like a character where you feel a little bit challenged on whether or not you should like this dude or not.
Wait, when did you feel like you shouldn't like him? I don't even remember anything he did except like he like stood around and he got mad about.
Sometimes you question his motives.
What did he do? I forget.
I'm half with you in the sense that like I like the performance here. You know, I think he does a good job with what he's given. The only thing I wish would happen is that they would give him something else besides that.
Most of the dwarves, I think except for Thorin and Gili, like those are the only two that, I mean, I felt like those two didn't really look like dwarves. You know what I mean? I felt like they look like movie stars. Thorin doesn't have like even like the big old nose and like.
He's gotta be sexy.
He's gotta be. Well, I guess so. Yeah.
Would you really want to watch an ugly dwarf the whole time?
Split decision number 2. Bard.
Of the additions to this story, like, Bard was one of my favorite things in this movie. Like, I really liked him.
I would have liked to see a whole movie just about Bard.
He kind of reminds me of Orlando Bloom.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit with
I was getting James Franco.
I like Bard's portion of the movie, too, because it gave us a different flavor of production design, too. Like, I liked the look of their city, and the music changed when they got there. And I thought that was a nice gateway into something Tolkien-esque, but new, you know?
Split decision number 3. Gandalf.
all 10 minutes of Gandalf.
I like Gandalf, I do. I would forget he's in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
he would show up and I'd be like, oh yeah, Gandalf, I forgot about this guy. It kind of just felt like Gandalf being Gandalf again.
A little bit, yeah. It's like I like Ian McKellen and stuff like that, and while it's not like his performance of Gandalf has really changed, but I like Gandalf much better in Lord of the Rings for some reason.
There's nothing about him in this film that's like, oh yeah, this is a different side of Gandalf. I'm glad we're watching a prequel.
Well, yeah, you just kind of have him here to have it.
You know, is there really room to really change Gandalf's character in the first place?
I'm not asking to change it. I'm just saying make him feel like more of a character, because right now he's sort of
Just
like
kind
a
of
game piece. It's like
I'm a wizard. There we go. I would like to see Gandalf like with a romantic interest. Like a woman with a beard or something like that.
like a dwarf woman.
Yeah, like a dwarf woman. That would be really cool if Gandalf like hooked up with a dwarf woman in this movie.
Forbidden interspecies.
Well, he showed a picture of the locket, and there was a little joke like, "Who's this?" And he was like, "That's my wife."
Well, that was
Yeah, it's dwarf woman.
One of the so that woman. I'm thinking that woman in the locket.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Gandalf wants
Get
to be
on it.
Gimli's stepdad.
Look, I know that a lot of people are thinking this about the movie, so I'm just going to address it. If Gandalf has that big of a beard, imagine how big his pubic hair must be.
That is a visual image that I am a little bit uncomfortable with.
But then you would have to wonder, is the beard just a lack of shaving or a stylistic choice?
Interesting.
Because he's like, clean-shaven wizards? Come on now. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta have a righteous beard if anyone's gonna take me seriously.
He's probably well-groomed. He probably just uses that staff.
Well, he probably, I mean, how would you, he would take the beard.
Staff for the shaft!
And he'd
Thank you.
whip it around behind his shoulder in order to, because like if the beard's in the way, he wouldn't be able to even reach down there. You know what I mean?
Split decision number 4. Action.
The action to me was absolutely dynamite. I like the spider sequence. There's like 4 defined action sequences. There's this one moment I saw in the trailer with like the dwarves are in barrels going down the river and there's like orcs and elves. And I thought that was so cool. I was with an audience and I was one of those people in the audience going, oh, so awesome. And I love the whole finale.
I'm not really on board with it. It just feels like the need to turn scenes into roller coaster rides where they didn't need to be. It takes away from the experience of the story to me, because it distracted me a little bit.
Oh, it amplified for me. I thought this was like an awesome action fantasy adventure flick. One thing I really liked about this movie was that even though you know some of these characters are going to make it and they're going to be fine, I would forget about that. Like, I would actually be like, oh shit, Bilbo's in trouble. Then you forget that he's going to live to be like 111 years old or some shit. Yeah.
But no, you're absolutely right with that. You know, I was legitimately scared, you know, for Bilbo in certain instances.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh fuck, this is the end. He gets eaten. Oh wait, no. No, we saw some movies.
Well,
That's
I
right.
did.
Ryan's consensus. I don't care what they say. The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug is the reason movies are made. I don't give a fuck what Jerry and Rachel say. The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug is the reason movies are made. Yeah, fuck these guys.
Jerry's consensus. Martin Freeman is still the reason to see The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug. Martin Freeman is still the reason to see The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug. It's like the one thing that is consistently good to me.
Rachel's consensus! So basically, lack of Bilbo and lack of investment in the characters is a reason not to see Desolation of Smaug. Basically, lack of Bilbo and lack of investment of characters is a reason not to see The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug. It seemed like it wasn't particularly cohesive and it was a lot of little ideas strung together by a piece of tape that, isn't particularly strong and you can probably just rip it off whenever.
Alright guys, thanks for checking out our review for The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug. Why don't you go ahead and scroll that comment box below and tell us, do you think Gandalf has a lot of pubic hair?
And once you're done with that, click on this button so you can see more episodes of Reasons to See, because we've seen other movies.
Of course, if you want to get updated every time one of our reviews or videos is out, subscribe! Where were you, Jerry? We always do it together.
I'm sorry!
You fucker.
Which Lord of the Rings character do you think has the biggest dick?
Oh, Gandalf, for sure. Without a doubt. I mean,
No, smallest.
Smallest? Oh, let's see here.
Legolas.
Oh, Smeagol.
Smeagol.
I'm
Oh, shit,
part of this conversation.
I wish fresh.